We'll go to talk about the topics. So, proof methods. You learned a couple new proof methods. Probably the big one was by cases, proof by cases. So breaking up your what you want to prove into multiple sub cases, and then proving each case. So if you can, sort of the way I'd write this is if you have like one proof you want to do, if you can break it up into several sub cases, and you can prove each case, then you've proved the whole thing, right? But there's one important thing here that a lot of students make mistakes on. Make sure that all of your subcases cover every possible case and that you're not missing any cases. Because if there's a fourth case here and you haven't shown that, then you haven't proved the full thing, right? So that's like one of the big proof methods for right now, at least, is cases. You also did existential proofs and uniqueness proofs. So existential means that you want to show that something exists. So that could be as simple as coming up with an example, or as difficult as coming up with like an algebraic sort of example of how you can prove one exists. You might not know exactly what it is, but you can show that one has to exist. Uniqueness requires existential. So if you want to prove that something is unique, first you have to show that it exists. Then you show that it's the only one that exists. Does that make sense? So an example of like existence and uniqueness might be like, is it true that there's a number z such that if you add z to x, you always get x back? Any idea? Is there such a z? 0. Is that the only z? Yes. The only possible thing for that this works is z equals 0, right? There's no other number you could put as z and that where it would still work, right? So that's unique, right? You might actually have to do some proof to show that that's the only possible one. Logically, it makes sense, right? But you can't test every single number. So in a proof course like this, you want to actually be able to prove that this is the only possible answer, right? There's no other options. Okay, with that being said, we're also going to talk about sets. Does anyone know how we define a set? Good, you shouldn't, because there is no easy definition of a set. Sets are, like, a lot of students will say, oh, well, it's like a group of things. Well, what's a group, right? Like, you just sort of keep going down this rabbit hole of, like, how do you define a set? How do you define a thing? Like, what are we talking about here, right? There is no really good definition for a set. Sorry. Yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about today. With that being said, I'll stop the recording. It's a quick one.